playing in a loop. All right, we are live. Hope you guys are doing well. Welcome to another Tuesday night edition of BMX Coach Live. I'm your host, three-time Olympic coach Greg Romero. Hopefully the sound sounds good. Man, everything is like really back to normal here in San Diego. The heat is on. I'm overheating. My camera's overheating. Hopefully everything works. I think I'm kind of in frame. I think I need to like pull the camera up, but for now, I think it's going to suffice. Anyways, I wanted to go over some things that are preventing BMXers from winning races. Now, when I say preventing from winning races, we're going to presuppose some of you guys are in it to win it. You guys are hungry. You guys have moved from beginner to intermediate, and you guys have already understood how to win motos, how to win laps. Some of you guys that are more experienced on here, such as David Bloor, some of these guys, JP, Andrew, all you guys, a lot of you guys are experts and you guys are used to racing. You guys are used to getting into the mix, and some of you guys may sniff the top of the podium or the podium from time to time. And so for the rest of us, through my experience of going from beginner to intermediate to expert, struggling expert, right? Struggling expert, turning pro and struggling, and then figuring out how to win. I've won more races as a professional than as an amateur. So I want to share some of the secrets that were preventing me from winning, especially through those amateur years, right? Especially my younger professional career as well. And so I say we just get straight into it. And Jack Baker says, "What's up?" Andrew Granaro, Burn Bully, Jimmy Velada. Hey guys, welcome to the show. Hey, I am super grateful and honored for you guys to show up. Looks like we're getting more viewers as we come into the stream. And so, one of the things I want to talk about are some of the character traits, right? Because I really think at the end of the day, there's three things that are really truly preventing you from winning races. Let me see if I can find my notes. Number one, it's going to be skills, right? Like typically your skills are going to be the limiting factor for winning races, especially, anywhere from the intermediate turning expert, the struggling expert, expert that goes to nationals and has a hard time dealing with anybody that's in the top 10 nag, if you will, right? And so I want to give you guys some tips on that. All right, I found my notes, thank goodness. Man, I am on it today. And typically it's going to be in no particular order. It's going to be skills, okay? It's going to be a physical trait, right? Do you have enough strength? Do you have enough power? Do you have enough gas in the tank to get you around the track? And then the third one, which I'm a big proponent of course, I'm a big proponent of skills. I'm huge on the physical power, strength. And then of course, I'm really even more bigger when it comes to the character traits, right? The character traits are going to be basically your mindset. What is the programming in your mindset? And in your mindset, it's going to be your values, your beliefs. And then we can also talk about the performance state, but really at the end of the day, I really want to touch on the character traits, the values and beliefs, the habits that are installed in you, and how can we upgrade those habits? How can we dissolve some of the unresourceful ones and give you guys some kick-ass ones that you guys could easily take with you, fine tune that character trait, and boom, that's the one or two things that you just needed to adjust, that you needed to address in an effort to have a breakthrough and start winning races the way that you should. Because I really truly think that at the end of the day, human beings are awesome, okay? First and foremost, they're all awesome. You guys have so much potential, it's not even funny. The problem is there's always some limiting factor, some kind of limiting belief, right? And usually it's some kind of unconscious program that's unresourceful, that's playing in the background, okay? And I have and I would say that I have a lot of athletes. All my athletes, there isn't one that's absolutely perfect where it's like, dude, you got no updating to do on any of your programs, right? Whether it's a program of winning, a program feeling that they're good enough, a program that they feel that they belong, right? A program that they have a really, really small reduction of fear, and and they have no uncertainty, right? So if you guys could figure out all 5 of those, then man, I think really at the end of the day, the rest of it, the skills, the bike skills, the physical needs and demands will all come to you very easily and effortlessly. And one of the things that's really been inspiring me, I do a lot of reading, and as I read, I take on these things that I'm always looking for as it pertains to our mindset. And because mindset is everything, right? It's going to bypass motivation. It's going to get you in the habits of doing things and doing things with intent and doing things regardless if you're tired or not. And so let's talk about some character traits, because one of the main things that I see, number one, is you guys are just not, you're not showing up, right? And that's usually based upon either not showing up in terms of frequency, right? Or you're not showing up in terms of effort, okay? And so when I think of frequency, I mean the time that you're going to the track, for example. Out of a month, are you going several times a month, or are you going several times a week? Because there's a big difference, right? The rider that's showing up several times a week, week in, week out, doesn't have a frequency problem. But for some of us, I'm guilty. I'm guilty. When I'm younger, I had a lot of stuff going on as a young teenage kid, right? There was skateboarding, there was video games, there was girls, there was high school sports. But my love and my long-term vision was always and has always been BMX. And so, me not showing up frequently, it showed when I raced. And I would say when I raced, it pretty much dictated and demonstrated to everybody that was at the races, hey, has Greg been showing up? Because if I've been showing up, it's going to show in my results. If I haven't been showing up, it's going to show in my results. And so that's one of the things, The second thing that I want to talk about in terms of showing up is effort. It's one thing that you show up it's one thing if you show up to the track, okay, and do your thing, but sometimes the effort may not be there. You guys may be just going through the motions. Maybe you guys are not focused. Maybe you guys don't know what you want to get out of the session. And maybe you guys don't have any structure and you just show up and you kind of go with whatever's going on. Hey, this group of guys they're doing some gates, and really I need to be working on my fitness and my track speed and my rhythm section skills and my manualing and my jumping and my pumping. And some of you guys are just, again, I was guilty of this as well. So I'm not trying to point any fingers, but I know there's some guys that are watching this that are live now and also in the future watching this. I'm talking to you guys because we're all guilty of it. We're all guilty of what? My skills are fine. My racing's fine. I don't need to go. And, at the end of the day, that's a character trait. That's a character trait, and we need to be showing up all the time. And so in terms of the effort, right? Do you have structure, right? Do you have a habit of knowing what you're going to do before you even get to the track? Do you have a habit of bringing the focus and the intent, right? Are you bringing the focus of whatever your future goal is? Are you bringing the intent of who you need to be in the future now? Because really at the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do. You're showing up, okay? You're showing up, and sometimes it's not about how you do it, but who are you that's doing it? Okay, I know that sounds kind of confusing, and I know that a lot of people would be like, what is Greg talking about, man? What's the coach talking about? Is he just rambling? And here's the thing, and I want to go, I kind of want to pause here for a second and really touch on something really important. And it really comes down to two things. Really, it's just one. And here it is. it's not so much about how you do it, okay? It's about who is doing it. When a client comes to me, they want to know, hey, how do I get to the Olympics? I'm like, well, who are you? Are you a guy or a gal, or are you a person that's capable of going to the Olympics? Because, you know, if you're not, then you can forget about the how. I can give you the entire training program of what's won Olympic medals, but if you are not who you need to be to go to the Olympic Games, then you can forget about it. So we always start with who, not so much the how. Because if otherwise you're wasting my time. You're wasting your own time and you're wasting everyone else's time. And so, you know, that's the thing. Who is more important than how? Think about that. And I'll give you an example. The Grand Nationals is coming up, and I would say, I don't know how long ago it was, a long time ago, 25 years ago. And I had programmed myself as someone that's going to win the pro class at the Grand Nationals, something I'd never done. The year before, it was my second year as a pro, and the year before I went and I got fifth in the semi, I didn't even make the main, had to watch the mains. And that was a year that Gary Ellis won coming out of the stands, and Christophe Levesque, you know, he was a French guy that actually won by default of points, made the main, and they didn't give it to him because he was a foreigner, and there was a rule with USA BMX that foreigners couldn't win national titles within the sanction of USA BMX. And long story short, I watched that main event and it was drama, but I wasn't a person that was ready, despite the fact that I did the how-to prepare for the Grands. And when I did the preparation of how to prepare for the Grands, I got fifth in the semi. The following year, I worked on who I needed to be in an effort to race that Grands and to win that Grands. And I just said, screw it. Like, I'm already doing the same amount of work as someone else that's going to be winning the Grands, right? Like, I had the program. I'm like, okay, this is how they did. This is how winners are doing it. Okay, that's how I'm doing it. What's missing? I got to work on the programming of who I am. I need to show up as a winner. And so simply what I did was I worked on my unconscious mind. I worked on the fact that I was a winner before I even started, before I even got on the plane. And I started about 4 weeks out, and I have a journal, and someday I got to show it, but I could tell you the story. I started to write down what the goal was and wrote it as if I already won. So I every night I would come home from training or the track, and I would write down, I feel great. I feel like a winner. I am winning the Grands. And it got to the point where I was doing this every day, that when I showed up, the person I needed to be showed up, right? The person that was going to win showed up, and that was me. And here's the crazy part. I remember practicing on a Thursday, and then that next morning, Friday morning, I woke up and I had some sniffles. I was like, oh my gosh, I could feel the burning in the back of my sinuses and my throat. I was like, damn, what's that? Like, I can't believe it. That's like a whole month of training down the drain. Like, why is this happening to me? And then I was like, you know what? Forget it. I'm a person that's resourceful. The champion is going to fight, and the winner is going to continuously show up regardless of how I feel physically, whether it's snowing or raining, whether it's cold or hot. And so I proceeded to go on and win every race that weekend. Again, the year prior, I did about the same amount of work of the how to prepare for the Grands. The only thing I changed was who I needed to be. Okay, and so getting back to the character traits, right? The habits. Let's get back to that, because, you know, maybe the who is, you're probably not ready for that, and that's okay. So one of the things I want to talk about was one of the character traits, the habit of showing up. Remember, I talked a minute ago about the habit of showing up to the track. Now, the same thing goes for training away from the track. All right. Same thing goes from training away from the track, because that is where you make your biggest gains in the performance arena of BMX racing. It's away from the track. There's only so much finite time that we have at the track. It's a small window of opportunity to get ready, to work on your skills, and then boom, the racing has begun and the track is closed, and maybe your track only runs 2 or 3 times a week. If you're in Europe, perhaps. If you're in England, I have a lot of clients, their tracks are open all the time, but there's not always, you don't always have access to the gate or what have you. But again, away from the track, it's all about the habit of what you're doing when no one is looking. Are you doing your sprints? Are you showing up? Do you have structure? And if you have structure, are you showing up? Are you doing your sprints? Are you doing your strength work? If you have a gate at home, are you working on that? Are you working on flat ground figure 8 turns? Are you working on, any weaknesses that you may have? Like if you have weaknesses in track speed, you can work on that by doing broken sprints, okay? So again, it's all about the habits, right, of showing up regardless if you're tired, regardless if someone's looking, okay? Regardless if you're motivated or not. And the key is, in terms of showing up, that habit, that's an ingredient of a champion, someone that you need to be as it pertains to winning races. Champions win races, okay? At all levels, right? Local, regional, national, world, Grand National. Anyone that wins a race, in my mind, is a champion. BMX is super hard. It's super hard. We do more losing than winning. All right, there might be 1 or 2 anomalies of some older girl that's just had her way, physically talented, parents supported them, and she did the work and dominated for 10 years. I mean, I can think of a couple people that won more races as an amateur than they've lost at all levels. But for the rest of us, for the 99% and the rest of us, losing, I hate to say it, but losing happens a lot. So, I've won over 100 professional pro races, but my goodness, I think I probably raced about 1,000, right? That's only like a 10%, that's a 10% chance of winning every time I make the main. So, in an effort for me to do a lot of winning, I got to do a lot of racing. Okay, so, that's the thing, I wanted to also talk about, another thing, right? Let's see here. What do I have? Yeah, I would say at the end of the day, that's pretty much it, right? The habits and the who you need to be. Those are the key things. If you guys have any comments, let's get into it. I want to keep it flowing, want to keep it going. And yeah, let's see. Jack Baker says, I have the power but not the skills. Someone says, I'm taking a week off to heal up from Saturday. Cool. That's it takes discipline to take rest from healing, because sometimes you can actually do the opposite, right? Like you may have the character trait of like, dude, even if I'm injured, I'm going to show up, and that's going to do you a disservice. So you kind of have to have that respect of your talent and say, hey, you know what? I am injured. I need to heal. It's a time of rest. Or maybe perhaps you could do alternative injured training. So for example, I have clients all the time, right? They may break a wrist. They may, get a shoulder separation, a collarbone injury, or some kind of upper body injury, for example, from a crash going over the bars. And they could still do lower body work. You could still sit down on an aerobic indoor trainer and work on your endurance. Maybe you could do seated sprint intervals on that. You can also do leg press, although you might need someone to help you put weights on it, but there's lots of different alternative things that you could do. I remember having an athlete who had a broken wrist, and we put them on a safety squat bar where the bar went over their shoulders and right around here, and there were some handlebars that he can hold one handlebar and he could still squat. I've had another one where they were able to hold a barbell and keep this hand right behind the barbell and kind of balance it and still do squats like so. So you could get creative, but if you can't ride, if you're injured and riding the bike is going to irritate that injury, then you need to stay off the bike. Find something else to do, because there are guys that can't shut off, right? The guys that are doing a lot of hard work day in, day out. Shane Nzai says, what up, Coach G? Hopefully everything else is going well in Hawaii, my man. Miss A says, I'm definitely guilty of not going to the track as much. Okay, cool. This is all great. I am going to address some of this stuff. If you guys have any questions, feel free, as it pertains to character traits, as it pertains what you need to be doing, or as it pertains to, hey, what are some of the character traits and flaws in your habits, in your motivation, in your limiting beliefs of not being good enough, in your limiting beliefs of not feeling like you belong in the main and on top of the box, right? Let's go over all those stuff, because, I've been there. All of my clients have been there. So, yeah, let's switch it up. I'll see you guys here in a minute. Type the questions below. Let's go.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now.
Nitro with the nice flow.
Stay focused, get ready now. For real, get ready now. Let's go. Stay focused, here the heat come. Concentrate to the sound of the beat drum. Yeah. Start it up, take it back now. Check it out. This is how it's going down. Yeah.
All right, that was starting to loop. So I'm going to try to bring up my social media comments here. I love that. Hopefully this thing actually works. Probably not logged in. Okay, cool. I got that. Now I just need to, bear with me, get some questions going. I don't want text. I want a social media title. Oh yeah, this one looks good. Let's try this one. Scale to fit. Let's add it. Let's place it right there. Cool. And then we got to select. Here you go, Jimmy Vallata. Hopefully, please forgive me if I mispronounce your name, man, because I'm embarrassed to say I'm finally starting to reach an age where I actually need reading glasses. Jimmy says, how much is mental rather than physical when it comes to the race? Yeah, I think it depends on where you're at, right? Like I would say, when it comes, I think it's vital at all levels, but from beginner to intermediate to expert to pro, that mental component keeps going up and up, because everyone's skills are also progressing at the same time. But think of like college players that like college football, for example. I don't know if you follow American sports or not, but college players, amateur players that go from college to pros. When college players go from college to pros and get drafted, they have the skills, they have the physical traits. They were already tested, probed, and analyzed, right? That they have the capability. The problem is when they get there, they may have an unconscious, right? A subconscious program. Unconscious, subconscious, same thing. Unconscious, people think that like, oh, I'm knocked out, but really a subconscious, right? That means you're not conscious of it, but there's something happening. Everything that I'm saying to you guys right now, it's all subconscious. It's programmed. I'm not making this stuff up. I'm not reading a script as I'm talking to you, right? So that means it's subconscious. It's coming off the dome. And consciously, I'm just able to read the question and then just go automatic. And that's what subconsciously how we operate. We operate as how we're programmed, how we're trained. The way we train our body in a movement to do a BMX skill, like coming out of the gate, that's subconscious. Consciously, we work on it and then we program it. And then boom, when we get to the race and we're focused on the race, then that's all unconscious. Now, in terms of the mental component, there are several different mental components because it's all kinds of different things. And so, thinking about the football player, maybe we'll talk about we'll talk about mind state, because that's completely different from mindset, right? Your mindset's going to be values and beliefs. And here's my theory on that, is that in the values and beliefs, we all believe we have a certain amount of potential, and then everything after that, we've reached what is called an upper thermostat limit problem, right? An upper thermostat limit problem. Any success after that thermostat, we come back down, okay? And so that may happen with a player, for example, that reaches the pros, that's a top prospect, and they just unconsciously, they derail themselves. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm at the pros and I'm making money doing this, and they may have an upper limit thermostat issue simply by going out and blowing their money. Or some of these guys, they screw up and they do something off the field, and all of a sudden they find themselves in prison for 10 years. Or think of the lottery winner. Think about the guy that's working 60 hours a week and struggling to make $40,000 a year. They play the lottery, they win $500 million, and all of a sudden, 365 days later, they're completely broke. They actually owe more money than what they've won, because they hit an upper limit thermostat that they're not rich, they're not wealthy, they're not worth anything over $40,000 a year. So they blow through that and they have this big drop. So that's one of the things when it comes to the mindset. It's all about raising your thermostat, right? Raising your thermostat. And that starts with simply the way you think, right? The way you think, right? The way you talk, your self-talk, the way that you talk to others. I'll give you an example. A lot of it comes from a lot of these examples I may say is probably has to do with like finances. Some people are like, oh, I just need enough to be happy. Okay, well, what is that? What does that even mean? Enough to be happy? If that's all you're asking for, then you'll never get above that, right? You'll never get above that. Riders, for example, I just want to make the main. You guys will struggle to make the main, especially if you say it in a negative way, right? I don't want to get motoed. That's self-talk, right? That's self-talk. That's what your thoughts are. That's your self-talk, and you're also saying that to other people, right? And one of the problems that kids and parents have is that they put a cap on what they're capable of doing based upon what's happened in the past. And really, at the end of the day, you have to be those that have the vision of the future and can see themselves making more money, going faster, winning more races, having an awesome marriage, raising awesome kids, man, right? If you're a business owner, increasing your revenue, increasing your profit margin. It all starts with us. It all starts within our programming. So I talked to a kid, one of my clients yesterday, and we talked about like how he has no problem when he goes to nationals. He has no problem doing really well in cruiser. When he gets into class, he struggles because he thinks there's more people that are faster in class. Well, that may be true by numbers, but what difference does it make? If you could take some of the characteristics and beliefs that you have when you race your cruiser and integrate that into your class bike, then all of a sudden you're operating out of resourceful values and beliefs, and also your mind state, okay? You've raised that upper limit thermostat so you could perform at a higher level and stay there and not have this big crash when you reach or blow by it. I've done this several times. You see this happen with people that try to lose weight all the time, right? People get on a diet, they're 20, 40 pounds overweight, they lose all this weight, and then they're skinny and everyone compliments them, and then all of a sudden, unconsciously, it's like, dude, you're not skinny. What are you talking about? Who are you kidding? We're supposed to be overweight. So we're going to start eating more, and we're going to drop back down, and we're going to gain it back. And all of a sudden, you got this yo-yo effect. This happens all the time with people in relationships, people in their finances, people in losing weight. Oh, and people in sports performance. It happens all the time. You could, if you guys look for it, you'll see it. It's wild. I've discovered this in my own life. So, you know, I am absolutely not perfect, but I've worked on it, right? I've understood it. And again, it comes down to changing those values and beliefs, right? Unconsciously, because we all have programs. There's a thermostat on everything. Raise them up. You guys are human. You guys are awesome. Be resourceful, right? And don't do affirmations, right? Don't, like, there's a great book. Oh, the book is The Power of the Unconscious Mind. Read that book. There's a couple awesome chapters in there. It's really simple. So back to the question, right? I just went on a big rant. Forgive me. How much is mental rather than physical? A lot, right? A lot. And BMX is a physically demanding sport, so you guys got to be showing up. You know, that's just the bottom line. All right, so, whew, man, I can just go off tonight, man. I can feel it, and I always say this, I got dinner too, so I can't be here all night. Let's see, Andrew Granado. Let's get this one up. Comments. Here we go. Okay, this comment here, Jack Baker says, I have the power, but not the skills. That's great, because I used to be the same way as you, Jack. I had a lot of power, I had no skills. So when I discovered my skills is, when I discovered that, I went into an environment and rode with people that had skills. And then I just rode with them. I actually rode with them at trails, right? And then I would ride with them at the track. And I would just try to model everything that they're doing technique-wise. So that's something that you can easily attain. Again, humans are awesome. You just have to impose the demand, and you have to surround yourself around people that are skillful, highly skillful. Okay? You're only as good as the 5 people that you hang around with in your life. Show me your best 5 friends, and I'll show you your future. All right, so Miss A says, I'm definitely guilty of not going to the track as much as I used to, or bringing effort to my practice sessions. This is mainly because I work a 12-hour job at night. Okay, fair enough. You know, you got to work, right? Like, you got to pay those bills. You got to make it happen. So what can you do? What can you do to offset the frequency? Well, maybe perhaps you just said it. When you go to the practice sessions, maybe you just focus on effort, right? And listen, I wouldn't play it like buffet, right? Like, you show up to a buffet, all you can eat, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to try to get everything and eat everything and try every single cuisine and get the appetizers and also get the dessert and the soft serve and all that stuff, right? Like, I get it. When you go to the track, I wouldn't do that. I would focus on 1 or 2 things, and that's it. Try to go deep. I spend 15, 20 minutes on it, right? Focus, maybe go to the track and focus on your gait, 15, 20 minutes. After that, maybe focus on rhythm section. That way you can get more out of it. And that way you're not showing up and trying to consume all these little different things, because there's all kinds of stuff that you can work on at the track. I would go really deep. So that's my tip. If you were asking for a tip, if you were my client, that's what I would say. And then, you know, if you're working 12 hours at night, when you wake up, I don't know what your work schedule is like, but I do have a kid that works fairly late, and what I have him do is, when he wakes up, he does his training, whether it's strength training or sprint training, right? If that's the case where he can't get to the track, then we're focusing on a lot of stuff that we could do at home, right? Sprints, strength work, plyometrics, figure 8 turns, you know, stuff like that. It's really easy to do. It's also easy not to do. So you might as well do it. And let me tell you something, Miss A, no one cares. No one's going to have any sympathy when you show up to the race and say, oh, poor you, you've been working 12 hours. Listen, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm just telling you that's how it is. So you got to make the most of it. Andrew Granado says, I've been focusing on my race day mindset for the last 5 weeks or so, and I can say it definitely was something that was holding me back. Rad, dude. Awesome. It says, proper mindset has elevated my game tenfold. Couldn't agree more, G. Yes, absolutely. I think your mindset of like, your intent. What are you trying to get out of the track when you show up to the track? Oh, are you focused on a race? Do you have a goal in the near future? And what is that goal? And who do you need to be? And what are some of the things that you need to work on in an effort to show up and accomplish that goal at that race? And being conscious of those items, right? Who do you need to be, and what do you need to work on when you show up to your practices every week? You're not going to not improve. You're not going to not show up prepared, right? And I think that's a great way to start. And then to take that to another level, because a lot of professionals do this, Andrew. A lot of professionals do this. They're always analyzing what's their goal for the next race, and what do I need to work on? What's the track going to be? Oh, it's different. The gate's like this, or the first jump's like that, and I struggle with stuff like that. Let's work on that. Right? Or maybe the last race I was exposed and had a weak second, third, fourth pedal out of the gate. Or I just didn't have enough gas in the tank and I was getting passed down the last straight. So immediately we're always professionals. And when I say professionals, I mean some of you top expert riders that spend a lot of money and show up race to race. You guys are pro too, believe it or not. But professionals, regardless if you're an amateur or a pro, you guys are always correcting to ensure that you're back on track. And that's what's really key, is that you guys are always correcting to be back on track in terms of your performance. Jeremy Lawler says, I try and train at least 5 days a week, 2 track days, 3 strength. I have the luxury of having a makeshift track on my property to work on the skills. Is 2 days enough recovery time? Is that like 2 days throughout the entire week, like back to back? Or is there a split? Typically I like something like take Monday off, take Friday off, right? Train Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, train Saturday, Sunday. Okay, that's a pretty easy split. I recently took 2 days off. I took Sunday and Monday off from training. Although I don't compete, I pretty much still train as if I was a professional. But yeah, 2 days is great. I would say a lot of kids don't get enough, or I shouldn't say kids, because kids can go all day long. I really think that. I really think at anything under the age of 14, 15, kids can just ride almost every day. It's crazy. But after that, it becomes tough on the body physically. In an effort to start creating performance gains, your performance gains are actually come as a benefit of rest, right? So if you're training a lot, getting rest, especially at night, getting good sleep is key. Joey D says, so many kids are scared of failure because they don't want to get laughed at on social media. Man, I love that. Thank you very much for bringing that up. So many kids are scared of failure because they don't want to get laughed at on social media. Yeah, I don't think so. That's the thing. When it comes to social media, when it comes to your performance, no one cares but you. No one cares but you. That's it. No one really cares. That's all in your head if people are going to laugh at you. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to post, oh man, I got motoed. No one's going to post it. No. So how are they going to get laughed at on social media? Social media is really, I couldn't imagine having social media as a kid. I would probably be pretty darn insecure. And I would say I was insecure as a kid. And social media would just make it worse. I would say stay off social media. It's no good as it pertains to any kind of sports performance. It's just rough. And also as it pertains to being scared of failure, really there's no such thing as failure, only feedback, and feedback that you're going to get as you analyze what that is, right? someone said it best. I heard it on a podcast today that, look, if this person's not going to come to your funeral, then who cares what they think, right? So every racer, any businessman, any racer, anyone that's like into high performance in life needs to have 2 or 3 people that they can trust, that they can bang ideas off of, right? They could throw ideas at them and they can get feedback. And so that's what's really important. But at the end of the day, there's no such thing as failure, only feedback. And that's what I tell all my athletes. The feedback is what's going to make you better. So I say you definitely go for it. And yeah, if you don't get the results that you want, then at least you're getting the feedback that you're trying, and then you can go ahead and course adjust from there. And before you know it, you're going to be doing a lot better than what you would have been doing if you didn't go for it. If you just became a victim of being scared. Joey D says that's why mains are good enough. Interesting. I think what you're trying to say is that kids are just happy to make the main event. Yeah, I think that you could be happy with making the main event, and I think you can also be happy with trying to go for the win at the same time. I have some clients that I think, oh man, I got so many clients. I got a client in my head. Actually, I have a friend that I can think of, a really good friend that I used to race with a lot. And he used to be happy, like, he was just happy to be at the races. He was happy to make the main event. And I think that him, by being happy to make the main event, that took the edge off of him going for the win and getting the results that he wanted, because he was always good and capable and talented enough and always put enough effort in to actually win the main event. But when he got to the main event, he was happy. So that's just a program. I think it's okay for you to be happy if you make the main event, but you need to activate another ingredient in your mind state. So happy could be an ingredient that's going to be your mind state, but maybe you could also be ferocious. Maybe you could be dangerous. Maybe you could be scared, like scared for other riders to race against you, right? Be tough, be powered, be empowered. Okay. You can have about 5 different ingredients, I would say, in your performance mind state. You know, for me, I think it was really simple. It was relax, focus, and snap, right? Whole shot. That's it. I kept it really simple with 3, but I have clients that have like 5. And I had a client that was just like, you know what? I'm just going to F these guys up. And he kept it really simple, and he won an Olympic medal off of that attitude, off of that mind state. Jeremy Lawler says, good feedback, Coach G. And then David Blur says, BMX legend Joe Finelli always says nobody remembers who won last week's race. Yeah, and no one really remembers who got motoed. And no one really remembers if someone felt like they were embarrassed, because no one can truly understand what someone else is feeling unless they tell you how you're feeling, unless they see you crying or seeing you throw a fit. Listen, you know, so that's why sometimes stoicism is a good character trait to have, right? The ability to play poker and not let them see you sweat, right? Having the same face whether you win, lose, or draw, right? If you could be that same person, like for me, for the most part, if you ever find me in San Diego or see me at the track, I'm always going to be joyful. I'm always going to be grateful. I'm going to have a slight smile on my face. I'm always going to be available mentally. That's how I am, regardless of what's going on around with the rest of the world, okay? Because that is a character trait. So you got to find that character trait to where you're consistent and you're not letting racing change that. You're not letting racing, I'm going to say this, it sounds funny, but you're not letting racing getting you angry. You're not letting racing getting you super over-elated and super just like, oh my gosh, on top of the world. You want to be able to operate, you know, in that predictable space, not too high, not too low, right? Don't get me wrong. I think if you do really well, go out that night and celebrate with your friends and family and have a good laugh. And if you're happy, be happy. I'm not saying don't emote, but what I'm saying is that if racing is making you angry, if it's giving you pain, then you need to reframe what not accomplishing your goals. What you got to reframe failure is only feedback, and take the feedback and focus on the long-term game of growth, the long-term game of success, the long-term game of winning. Because at the end of the day, listen, BMX, despite the fact that it is an infinite game, that means there's a beginning and an end. There's always going to be, first place, second place, third place, a podium, and then everyone else from 4th to 8th place. And that's an infinite game, right? We all get that. But I think you guys as athletes, as human beings, as people living on this earth, you guys are playing an infinite game. You guys are always growing until you're not, right? That's what life is about. It's about stepping up your game season after season. And if you could show up with the mindset of playing an infinite game, that regardless of the outcome, I'm growing. I'm going towards the target of what I want as it pertains to what I'm trying to get out of in BMX, okay? Is my lighting okay? It looks okay over here. David Blur says, why race if you're not trying to win? That's a great question. The why is that's a tough way to ask a question. I always like to say for what purpose, because when you get why, you're going to get a bunch of excuses. So for what purpose do racers try not to win? Because they simply do not have the programming to win. They don't have the programming. And it's weird. Like, I remember having an athlete that had a upper limit thermostat issue of winning races. Okay? Super talented. I'm talking a pro. Super talented, effortless, awesome skills, level 10 skills, level 10 power, level 10 effortlessness, and only like a level 5 winner. And, we discovered one of the beliefs of him that prevented him from winning championships is because he had this limiting belief when he saw people winning championships that they acted like assholes, that they were stuck up, that they were conceited, that they had big egos. And so he felt like if he won a championship, then he was going to become that person. It's crazy, it sounds crazy, but that's a limiting belief, and we need to dissolve that. Right? And that's the fun part about being a human being, is that we tend to put a meaning on things. And that meaning could either be resourceful or it could be unresourceful. If it's unresourceful, it's going to bite us in the ass down the road. It's going to bite us in the ass down the road. So it's always best to try to look at what's positive and rid of some of those. They always say perception is projection. So if you see somebody that's stuck up, if you see somebody, I can think of like Karens, right? They have these big issues when they see someone doing something wrong, and it's like, they want to signal to the world that, hey, that they're righteous and their shit doesn't stink and you're doing something wrong. And the problem is they have what is called Carl Jung's theory on the shadow. They can't accept that they're capable of being wrong, right? So they want to point fingers at others. And so that's the thing. You have to be able to accept that you're capable. When you see someone that's like, oh, they got an inflated ego or a big head, well, you have to be able to accept the fact that you're also capable of having a big ego and a big head. That's it. Human beings are capable of everything and anything. Not only are you guys are capable of the awesome stuff, but you're also capable of the shit. Right? So, man, you got to work out some of those issues, because some of those issues that you guys are packaging as life unfolds and you guys put meanings on it, it's going to bite you in the ass. So that's where I'm at in my life. I'm like, I'm always going to look for the glass half full. I'm always going to look for what's positive out of that. Yeah, is he acting unresourceful? Is he acting a little bit conceited? Is that person acting like, you know, messed up? Sure, but my level of heat, right? My level of intensity. I'm not going to get. That's not going to get me angry because I know as a human being I'm capable of being like that. And once I work out that issue, then I live with less baggage. And you can too. And a lot of people do. Joey D dropping some John Purse stuff. Let's see it. I love some John Purse. Joey D says, John Purse was our coach and he made my son a beast. Heck yeah, John Purse is a champion. He's got the mindset. He understands. Okay, in a good way. Okay, okay. Then you got another comment here, Joey D. He said it 3 different ways. John Purse was our coach. He said it 3 times. John Purse was our coach and really taught my son how to win by aiming for the podium 1 lap at a time. I love it. Yeah, that's right. There's something to be said about 1 lap at a time because you can't race 10 laps at a time. And you can only race whoever's on the gate. And you can only control yourself that's in the gate. And you can only focus on the lights and when that gate drops. And then after that, you know, it's open season. You have the ability to lay down 100% of what you're capable and what you're trained to grab the whole shot, to get ahead of everybody, grab the whole shot and start dominating, right? If you don't have those skills, then you just work on it and you keep working on your ability to keep focusing on yourself and keep aiming for the highest position possible, especially out of the gate into the first jump and all the way into the first turn and all the way to the finish line. That's all you can do. And I would say John Purse did a really good job doing that because I think he's won like 2 times more races than I have. I want to say he's won probably close to like 300 races. Impressive stuff. Thank you very much for sharing that because that brought the best out of me. And John Purse really brought the best out of me. David Blur, he says, that was in response to people happy to just make mains. Or not get moto, understand you won't always win. I don't always win. But do my best and believe I can win every time. Yeah, that's part of the controllable, right? Doing your best. Showing up in an ideal performance mind state is something that you can control, right? Like I deal with athletes all the time that when they show up into staging and they see somebody that's bigger and potentially they think that person's faster, you know, then all of a sudden they shrink, right? They get into their shell. Their body language changes. They get defeated. And they're like, oh my gosh, man, like I gotta race this guy. No, that's not resourceful. You gotta get back and trigger yourself into the ideal performance mind state and simply just get back to saying simple words like powerful, focused, confident, right? Don't say I am confident, I am focused, I am powerful, because your unconscious mind is going to fight that and say, I don't know about that, Greg. I don't know about that, David. So if everyone's capable of being confident, powerful, empowered, strong, focused, then just say those words to yourself, okay? Because everyone's capable and has an idea of what that mind state is like. Just say the words. You don't need to say it out loud. You don't need to say, hey, I'm confident, powerful. No, I don't want to yell because I don't want to blow out the speakers, but you guys get what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? All right, we're getting close here. 6:57, I got 3 more minutes. We'll run through these. Mike 118, what about an old pro who went back to expert, then waited another 6 years to go to intermediate? Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know who that is. I don't know who you're talking about. I certainly never done that. That's funny. Rich Smith says, I'm only in my 4th full-time season, and I often get told to stop trying to race above my abilities. I just can't stop trying to win at all costs. 61 and over cruiser. Oh man, I love you. That's fantastic. And then he says, how do I harness my energy to get better and accept my outcome, even if I get motoed, rather than taking the chance that I may perform an unwanted stunt. I love you, Rich. That's great. First off, I want to address this, right? BMX, we're always operating at the fine line of pushing our limits, our abilities. If we're not, then we're not trying hard enough. And other competitors will also get us to test our abilities, whether it's a physical ability, a skill ability, or a mental ability. So what can you do to stop trying to race above your abilities? You got to keep expanding those abilities, whether it's a physical, a mental, or a skill, right? What is it that's preventing you from racing within your abilities? Maybe your abilities is good enough. Maybe at 61, you're just trying to prove to the world that that you're better than them. So at what point do you stop competing? Right? At what point is it enough? And maybe you just do it for fun. I mean, to be honest with you, no one cares but you. No one cares but me. Whether if I decide to come out of retirement at the age of 50 and race the world championships next year, no one's going to care about me. When it's all said and done, that's all that matters. You got to do this for you. So maybe you integrate some fun. Maybe at practice, you work on expanding your abilities. Okay? And then when you can expand your abilities, whether it's a skill, a power, even a character trait, maybe it's a mindset or a mind state, work on that at practice. And then when you show up for the races, it'll be a lot easier for you to perform the way you're programmed to perform. Oh, David Bloor with a $10 donation. Look at that. Thank you for doing these live streams. Yeah, we're back, right? We're back. We're definitely back. And if you guys want more, listen, man, I opened up, I completely changed the program over at bmxtraining.com. Sign up for the newsletter. I'm going to be sending out newsletters. I need to start probably this week and get on a consistent habit. I've been really busy. So, I got my own excuses. I'm not perfect, but sign up for that. And I also have a new program. It's the BMX Training Pro coaching system. Check that out. That's over at bmxtraining.com. If you guys are finding a lot of this advice helpful and you guys want to level up your game, improve your gaits, improve your skills, improve everything that you guys need in terms of your mindset as well, go and sign up. If you guys are not satisfied, I'll refund your money back. All right. Let's see. We've got one more here. I'm already 2 minutes past. Let's see. I would care if you came back out of retirement and you raced worlds. That would be really cool. Yeah, thank you. If it inspires people, then I will certainly do it for others and integrate the fact that I am doing it for others and not just for myself. Because most of the time, a lot of racers, that's the thing, they have a hard time contextualizing what they're doing. And what I found that the way that I could take the onus off the shoulders and the weight and the pressure of performance is that, listen, you're also doing it for other people, right? Like you're doing it for your family, you're doing it for your friends, you're doing it for kids that may look up to you, okay? And I really think that's important that you integrate those characteristics of the purpose of why you race in addition to of doing it for yourself. So, and that's really true for a lot of things, right? Whether you're a BMX athlete, a BMX racing athlete, or if you're an entrepreneur, or if you're a family man at the house, obviously you're not only trying to put food on the table, but obviously you're not trying to only put food on the table for yourself, but you're doing it for your family, right? So I really think that it's important that even younger kids, they contextualize the racing, They're not only are they doing it for themselves, but they're doing it for other reasons. And that gives you the ability to transcend yourself. And when you can transcend yourself, you transcend your performance, you actually do better. You're bringing the best potential out of yourself. You're bringing better focus. You're tapping into your physical potential. You're tapping into the capability of all your skills and beyond. And it's just better for everybody. The times that I've focused on, hey, I'm just doing this for myself, I've never had good seasons doing that. But even as a pro, when I was able to like do it for others, do it for my family, do it for my younger sisters, do it for the kids that I coach back at home at the track, I've always did better. The purpose is stronger. Man, if I keep hanging out, people are just going to keep donating money. Thank you, Rich Smith. Really appreciate you. I'm going to the City of Industry race. I'm going to go there, I believe, either Friday or Saturday. So if you guys are going, yeah, I talked to a pro today, and we're going to try to put something together for next year. We're going to put a program together for Worlds. Be on the lookout for that. Yeah, and I think that's about it. That's all I have for today, guys. So listen, keep working on your habits of showing up, right? That's what we talked about in the beginning of the show. Keep bringing the effort, okay? Keep showing up with the intent. Show up knowing what you're going to do at the track. That's important. And regardless, just show up. If the track is running, show up. And then before you get there, figure out what you're going to do at the track. Have a game plan. Don't just fall into the trap of going through the motions. Don't fall into the trap of doing what other people are doing. Because if everyone's doing the same thing, then everyone's getting the same results. And if you want to elevate, you got to go to the next level. If you want to go to the next level, you got to really bring that intention, right? You really got to bring the focus. You really got to have that character trait of showing up at the track and doing it as often as you can. And then at the same time, making sure that you show up at your training sessions away from the track when no one's looking, because that's where the real gains are happening, okay? So that being said, you guys have a good evening wherever you're at, and thank you very much for the opportunity for me to be your coach, and I'll see you guys next week. Thank you guys so much for the donations, and you guys have a good night.